Hello again, Persian guy. Just to let you know, last time I wore my camis, but because I had just gotten off work, not because I am trying to represent my military affiliation, although I am proud of it. I took the time to relax after work today and change, so now we can have a nice normal talk. Let's get right to it. Al-Qaeda. Yes, I am aware that we created, supported, financed, and trained Al-Qaeda, as well as provided weapons. We created the monster. We should be the ones to destroy it. No other country should have that burden. So I am still against Al-Qaeda. I am not, however, against the Afghanis. I think you said in your video that I had said that. I'm not, because I am aware that although many Afghanis are part of Al-Qaeda, as well as other individuals from other countries, that's not all Afghanis, and many Afghanis do not want to be associated with Al-Qaeda or any other terrorist organization. So it is not a war on Afghanistan, simply a war on Al-Qaeda that happens to be in Afghanistan. We are trained to kill. Well, that's true, but that's because when you get sent to a war zone, you need to know how to defend yourself. Really, it comes down to your mission. The mission, as I mentioned before, of the Seabees is to build. So that is what they do. Their mission is to go out, construct, and build. If they get attacked, then yes, they will use their skills to kill the enemy. I am a hospital corpsman. The mission of any hospital corpsman out there is to treat wounded Marines as well as civilians and enemy prisoners of war. Obviously, Marines take priority. We take care of our own first. When the Marines are taken care of, we move on to the civilians and EPWs and treat as many as possible. Make sure they're not bleeding to death. Make sure that any serious wounds are covered. You know, basically keep them alive and breathing until they can get to the hospital and get through surgery. So I won't be sent out with instructions to kill. I won't be sent out with instructions to detain. Combat patrols are part of a corpsman's duty, but simply because it has to be there in case a Marine gets wounded so they can patch him up. Stock market. I disagree with you on that one, because in 2003 the White House was putting pressure on the CPA to get all these things off the shoulders of the Americans and onto the Iraqis, simply because the White House wanted to reduce and minimize the amount of political damage they were taking. They wanted to be able to claim that they were making significant progress and wanted to be able to show this. And they won't be able to do it until the Iraqis took full responsibility and control of certain things. Of course, they did want political control, some political control, and some control over oil. I think that's obvious. I don't think the Iraqis turned down our stock market because they were suspicious, but rather because their method of the blackboards and paper would allow them to get the stock market up and running almost immediately, whereas what the Americans wanted, the computerized, state-of-the-art new stock market, would take many months, possibly years to complete. You talk about destruction as far as the bombs we drop and the bombs, the car bombs and suicide bombs they do. But you don't have to drop any bombs to destroy a country. That's what I was trying to tell you when I talked about looting. When they looted all those universities and schools and took desks and books, other equipment, electrical wiring, they destroyed a country's educational system. They did the same thing to the healthcare system when they looted hospitals. Another example is when the CPA came in and the guy in charge of getting the Ministry of Industry back up and running, they went to the building and it was torched. This was a problem because, first of all, they didn't have anywhere to walk out of, and second of all, records were destroyed, records of all the different companies, including which companies owed the government money and which companies were making money, and had money in the bank and how much, and so forth and so forth. So it was a big clusterfuck and very near impossible to fix. I don't really know that you can fix it now. So there's many ways to destroy a country, and I think that's a good example. And all these examples, all these different things that looting caused require just as much reconstruction as a building that's been bombed. You and I disagree as well on who is killing more Iraqis, although realistically I don't know if there are any facts that will support either one of our opinions. I think that's all they are at this point, opinions, because how accurate can the numbers be at this point? It must be very difficult to get accurate numbers in this chaotic state that Iraq is in. You hear about the deaths of Iraqis at the hands of military personnel. I don't know how accurate the numbers are as far as civilian versus insurgent, because how do you know who an insurgent is and who a civilian is when insurgents dress and live among like civilians and live among civilians? You also don't know how accurate the numbers are as far as civil war deaths, as far as you hear 30, 40, 50 deaths a day, bodies found tortured, killed execution style deaths because of hostages being taken for ransom. I don't think any numbers are accurate, and we won't know who's right, you or I, until we get some more accurate numbers. I don't think Americans are really upset at the cost. I mentioned the amount of money only to prove that there were attempts at reconstruction, not only destruction. I have no problem paying taxes, that go towards the rebuilding of Iraq. No problem at all with that. Kids having guns, definitely disagree with you on that one, simply because, they're kids. Can you really trust their judgment? Do they really understand war? And they shouldn't be put in that situation. You and Warren have mentioned that there are no gray areas, only black and white. I think this is a good example of a gray area. If you're a 20, 25, 30-year-old Marine, you're still pretty young. You still have a whole life ahead of you. I mean, the youngest Marines out there are 17. They're pretty much still kids. So if you have a 10-year-old shooting at you, that's a tough choice. Do you sacrifice your life so that this 10-year-old can live, or do you kill a child? I've heard many people on YouTube say, I would much rather die than kill a child. But some of those people are full of shit. If those people aren't willing to get off their ass and sacrifice time, to go volunteer at a homeless shelter, or donate blood, or go with the Red Cross or the Peace Corps, if they're not willing to open up their wallets and sacrifice money for poor kids, to buy toys for tots, or shelters for homeless kids, or single moms with children who can't afford to live in a nice place. How am I supposed to believe those people would sacrifice their lives? That's why I think they're full of shit. Especially if it's like a 22-year-old Marine who just had a baby boy. It's even a tougher sacrifice for him, because he's not only thinking about himself, losing his own life, but leaving his child without a father. That's a gray area. That's a tough choice, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't know what to do. I can't tell you what I would do until I am in that situation and I react, and only then will I know what choice I would make. Anyway, that's all for now, so till next time. Later.